empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, 0.8 feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Buckeye Scoop Live. It is Tuesday. It is the game. It is this is as hyped and as crazy of an atmosphere as we've seen since 2006. There is a lot of vengeance on the mind of the Buckeyes. Michigan's talking tough. It's going to be an interesting ride. We have the two best analysts in the game in Bill Green and Nevadabuck coming on shortly. But I can't wait to talk about this. We're going to take your questions. Any questions you have, load them up in the chat. We will take them, we will answer them, and we will do, it's going to be a fun one. So I'm excited about it. We had a great pre-show, so can't even imagine what the real show is about to be like. So, but as always, we are thankful and grateful for you guys. If you enjoy this content, please click subscribe right down below. Huge help for us. If you enjoy the stream, leave us a like. Likes are huge. Comment who needs to be the MVP of the game to beat the Michigan Wolverines on Saturday for the Buckeyes. What do we need to get done? We need to hear it. After this, we'll be on BuckeyeScoop.com all night. We are really cranking the content. This has been a fantastic week, huge recruiting weekend, a lot of big news. Super excited about this one. But without further ado, I have my two compadres, two of the funniest guys, two of the best analysts in the game, Nevadabuck, Bank Green. How are you guys tonight?
Good, man. Real good.
Great
All right,
week.
I'm going to start with you, Nevada. Two big nuggets yesterday, talking about Blake Corum, big quarterback nugget. How are you feeling after the media availabilities have concluded on Tuesday? Anything new? Any new feelings? Or are you still all gas, no brakes on the Buckeyes this Saturday?
I am all gas, no brakes. I mean, you can already see it. Like, you can see the Michigan guys are already starting to kind of set up the excuses and try to do the, oh, golly jeepers, we're kind of that. And like with Ohio State, man, it's a firm resolve. They know what they had to do. Ryan Day knows what's at stake on this game too. Like, this is about his legacy. He's about his all in. The players all know. They've been hearing the conversation. Like all the comments. You know, and again, I'm not big. I generally don't think that stuff works, but I think the stuff has gotten so personal about the softness and kind of little code words about the culture at Michigan's better and stuff like that. And they've got this stuff running on a loop at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center right now, and the boys will be ready. The fans will be ready, and frankly, you know, in general, the better team generally wins the game. We're the better team. They have not. They've been a very, very mediocre road team this year. We've been a very, very good home team. I think for all those reasons, I think we're rolling big. And yeah, nothing that happened in the press availability changed it. Just it reinforced it for me even more. I'm all on the Buckeyes this Saturday.
Bank, how are you feeling about the game? A lot of craziness this week in the press availabilities, but how are you feeling? You know, we're about 4 days out at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, you know, I've been pretty down on Michigan all year, and they you know, they do keep winning, but I think the Big Ten is really bad. So, you know, I mean, both teams are undefeated, but I sure don't see like the 2006. I don't see that at all. I don't see this type of matchup. I mean, you know, we've been over this stuff before. We had Phil Steele at the start of the season, if you remember that, and I had talked to Phil about, you know, when I kind of evaluate teams, either for games or for the whole season, you know, I look at head coach, quarterback, defense, O-line, and then your intangibles, you know, but where, you know, I think head coach is a wash, and defenses are both about the same, and O-lines are both about the same, but quarterback is just, it's not even close, you know, and that's, you know, it's the single most important position in all of team sports is a quarterback. I don't care, baseball, basketball, whatever you want to talk, quarterback, number one. And then when you drop down to the intangibles, I mean, Ohio State's at home, and that's a huge advantage. They've had their nose rubbed in it for 365 days. They heard the talk about softness. And Kirk, you were a player. Nothing hurts worse than being called soft and have it being true, and it was true. There's no way around it. They were soft last year. You know, they were the typical Northern lamb. Well, I think this team is national good, and I think Michigan again is Big Ten good. which Big Ten good gets you in the playoffs and it gets you killed. But national good, you line up and you beat Clemson. You line up and, you play people. So, and I think that's what Ohio State is. I think Ohio State is a national good team. And I think Michigan is a Big Ten good team. And I just think the advantage of quarterback, the home team, they're getting your nose rubbed in it. I think Ohio State wins. And I guess it should be close, but I just don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't see the star power of 06. I was talking with Nevada today. I was like, in 06, like they had Chad Henne, played 15 years in the NFL. He didn't start a lot of games, but they had Lamar Woodley, who was Steeler, Pro Bowler, superstar defensive end. Yeah, Alan Branch was about 6'6", 350 at nose guard. He's a monster. Yeah. David Harris was a 12, 13-year NFL guy, captain of the Jets. Leon Hall, first-round pick corner. So it was. They had some real.
Sean Grable was a heck of a college football player.
Yeah, and he I think he broke the record for tackles for a loss for Michigan his senior year. Jake Long went number 1 overall in the draft, left tackle.
Long, you're right.
Yeah, so Manningham. I think Manningham is one of the most underrated players ever. He was.
Mario was amazing.
Yeah, I would have killed for him to go to Ohio State because I thought he was that good. He was one of those guys I was like, holy cow, is this kid? He's the most ice water kid I ever saw in high school in terms of what he did to Maslin. And I think he's like a sophomore that year when he crushed Maslin. I was like, oh my God.
I was there. I was at that game.
Yeah, you're probably like, who the hell is this kid? And
no one knew who he was.
Yeah, and he was a different animal. But I don't know. Like I think that you're right. Like when you want to put a bet down, it's like who has the better quarterback, and it's like you've got an A+ quarterback versus C- quarterback.
He's okay.
Yeah, he's okay. Exactly. He's all right. He's okay. But it's like, is he a guy that's and again, he's CJ is being talked about as being a top 3 pick. So that's a pretty big edge in my opinion.
Yes.
And I think Jim Knowles just schematically and scheme's one thing, but culturally he is like, he's a tough dude. And he is a guy that, man, he holds no quarter. That dude, if you're not ready to give effort and play hard, he will throw. You'll be watching. You'll be standing next to Larry Johnson and the guys on the sideline because he did that to Josh Proctor. Did it to Denzel Burke. He'll hook you if you're not ready to go. He's not going to say, oh well, pat you on the head and say, "I'll get him next drive." No, you're going to be watching the rest of the game. So I think that his toughness is rubbed off, and I think that when your 2 captains are Cade Stover and Tommy Eichenberg, those are 2 of the toughest guys in the history of the program. So I think that resonates as to the mindset of the team, and honestly, I think that the team walked into a fist fight last year. There were guys that admitted that in interviews. Emeka Ibuka basically said, "Oh, we thought it would be easy because we beat him so many times." And I was like, and again, like when you've won 18 out of 20 or whatever, and then it's to roll the helmets out and let's go, and they walked into Aiden Hutchinson and a team that was motivated. But Bank. Big recruiting weekend. We were talking offline about some of the ghosts of Samson Okunlola and some of these guys that could show up. I know that there is less than 0 chance of us getting Samson Okunlola, but anything else you're hearing about this weekend? There's a big laundry list of names, but anything in terms of splashes, last minute visits that you could see showing up this weekend?
I'm to the point where. I just will say I don't know, but man, the Caleb Downs vibe is definitely out there. I know his dad said they're going to the Iron Bowl, but for some reason, there are people connected to the Ohio State side of things. They're not saying he's coming, and I don't want to say that, but they're not saying he's not coming. Okay, so and that's got my interest, people that are usually pretty spot on, pretty on the money, and don't bull crap hype stuff are telling me just hang in there with Caleb Downs. We're not saying he's coming, but just keep your eye open. And that would be the eye opener. Caleb Downs, he's such an amazing player. He's Von Bell. Love the kid, his film, the type of person he is. You want that guy in your program. And then back to Samson Okunlola, he's told people he's coming. So, he would be when people talk about like NIL guys, he's an NIL guy. Okay. Trust me on that. and that doesn't mean Ohio State can't get him, because Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, all the SFE guys are NIL guys. Believe me, and Ohio State landed Tate and Ennis. So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying Okunlola's he's an NIL guy.
Yeah. Nevada, are you surprised that we haven't been able to pull a 5-star tackle? Just because, I mean, we're losing Paris and Dewan. They're both going to go pro. 2 wide open spots on the depth chart. I mean, if I'm Samson, I don't know where I'd rather go than Ohio State, because you could literally start from day one, because, you got Josh Fryer, and then you've got, maybe Donnie Jackson goes out the left tackle. You got Zen. But in terms of an appetizing depth chart, that's about as good as it gets. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Bank hit on it though. It's like, when you got a kid that's an NIL kid. I mean, you've got kids that are down in Florida that are getting, I mean, we could go all over, but kids that are getting $400,000 or $500,000 at one time already before they ever set foot on the college campus, and that's life-changing money. So at that point, does it really matter if you go to Ohio State and they've got an appetizing depth chart, or you go somewhere else where the money's great? You can step in and play when you can, and you've already kind of taken the chances of eating the whole cadoodle on this thing, because you've got money in the bank, before you ever played down in college football. So, I think NIL's changed so many things. And, I think, it's comfort, it's relationships, it's depth chart, it's this, it's that, for some kids, it's NIL. And I think, when that happens, as we talked about with 5-star tackles, there's just not that many of them. How many are there? 6 of them, or 5, or 8, or 12? There's not that many of them. And, so it's a really unique, set of kids. And frankly, I think a kid like Luke Montgomery should probably be a 5-star anyway. So maybe we already landed our 5-star tackle and he's already in our class. But since he's committed, that he's not going to get that 5th star.
Nah. Well, I mean, On3 might give him a 5th star, or 247, the Buckeye bump, the super Buckeye bump. But On3, they put 2 of our corners as two of the top 3 in the country behind your boy Gramani, in front of Dijon Banks. So that was real interesting. They gave them the super Buckeye bump. Did you Bank, when you judge these coaches, because you've been in this game for 30 years, with Nevada, but when you judge these guys and their recruiting prowess and their ability, how much do you take into account the NIL availability? Like, if you're a position coach at the U or Florida or A&M or wherever, where they have these robust NIL programs versus schools that might not be quite as aggressive or robust, like, how do you judge a guy in his recruiting ability? Because like a guy like Brian Hartline is just like, he's like bulletproof to the whole thing. Like he goes in and he's like, look, I've put 7 guys in the first round. You'll make $50 million with me, or you can go make $600,000 at the U playing for 5 different coaches. And like how much do you judge it with the new world of NIL? How much does it change you?
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, and you mentioned, the best in the business and Brian Hartline. I mean, what do you think? I mean, number one, look at Carnell Tate. What do you think Tennessee would pay? And you don't have to give out numbers, but I mean, obviously, Carnell would get an upfront NIL deal from Tennessee that would be out of this world. And have you watched Tennessee play? You know what I mean? That's a great offense. Yeah. You know what I mean? Those guys catch a lot of balls. So, and then you look at Brandon Ennis, and what do you think Miami would pay to get him? Now, is that the most wide receiver friendly place in America? No, probably not. But I mean, not everybody in the NFL is from Ohio State and Bama. So, Hartline's the gold standard, and maybe you have Hartline, mentor these coaches, even though he's younger than most of them. It can be done. It's being done. You know what I mean? That's all I can say. But NIL, it's absolutely a factor. I mean, I only know one guy that really wanted to come to Ohio State, but I think NIL forced him out, and that's Mark Fletcher. It happened a couple of weeks ago. And we've warned about this for how long, Kirk? Since the guy before he committed. Terrence Brooks might have been an NIL loss. I don't know, but it hasn't been that many. Ohio State is still going to have a great class this year. They're off to a great start for next year. So, they are surviving really well in this NIL world.
Yeah, I agree.
Look at Dylan Raiola. I mean,
oh yeah.
What would he? if he wants to go get money from someone, he's going to get a pile. And you
Yeah.
could say, well, his dad played in the NFL. They don't need money. Everybody needs money. LeBron James went to LA for financial reasons.
Yeah.
And he's the richest guy in the NBA. So everybody needs money. Nobody has enough. But Ohio State is still getting Raiola because he wants to play for Ryan Day in that offense. So you can still sell these kids. And there are NIL opportunities at Ohio State. Sometimes we talk like these guys, they have to go to McDonald's and count change. That's not the case. CJ Stroud is doing very well. Trey Henderson, very well. A lot of the guys on this team are doing very well with NIL.
Yeah.
And I think we need to mention that sometimes because I think, if recruits watch this program, they're thinking, oh, my God, I'm going to have to eat day-old fries at Ohio State where I can live like a king in A&M. The top players at Ohio State are doing very, very well. CJ Stroud does not have to call Uber when he wants to go downtown. He got a ride.
He just calls the limo service.
He's got a nice car in the parking lot. He's doing well for himself.
Oh, I know you got the G-Wagon. Something that's interesting. I'm going to go to you, Nevada, on this one. Talk a little bit about prospective bounce backs with the transfer portal. Some of these kids, and I look right squarely. Texas A&M was a preseason top 5 team, loaded class, the highest rated class of all time. Absolute disaster of a season. One of the worst, flops in recent college football history. And I can imagine 20, 30 of those kids hitting the portal from that roster, maybe more. Like, what do you think the bounce back effect will be on some of these kids that maybe take the money, or maybe even more so, there's kids that were promised money, at all schools, and the money might have fallen through, or something might have changed, or they never got paid. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that there's going to be like a second round of recruiting after these kids' true freshman years when things don't quite go as planned. Speak to that a little bit, Nevada.
Well, I think what we have to remember is think of college football now as the NFL, where everybody's a free agent at all times and can move on to another team. I mean, you've got instantaneous free agency. There's no such thing as a long-term deal. And, I think what you're saying is absolutely right. You're going to have kids bouncing around, multiple times. It's definitely changed the way recruiting's done. Recruiting never stops now. Recruiting evaluation never stops. I think it makes the job for guys like Mark Pantoni and other guys that are on the evaluation and recruiting side that much more difficult, because you're not just recruiting them when they're high school sophomores and juniors and seniors and bringing them in. Like, you've got to be evaluating the portal all the time. You've got to be evaluating other rosters at all time. I mean, look, when Jordan Addison leaves Pitt as a Biletnikoff winner and to go to USC, then it's on. And so I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. You throw in some coaching changes, you throw in some NIL missteps or people not getting what they were promised, and I mean, heck, rosters are going to turn over 10, 15, 20, 25% every single year, and it's never been like that before. And I'm sure Ohio State will stay on it, as Banks said. Ohio State's NIL is good. Even for the low rank, I think what the average guy in Ohio State makes like $100,000 or something like that. So these kids are doing really well. It's not like the day when Barton played, and you're eating the two cheeseburger special at McDonald's with your money. I'm sure you're seeing the money now, and you're kind of going, man, I was born too early. That's for sure. But
my kid wasn't though.
No, your kid, right? Exactly. You got another bite at the apple, man. But
that's right, baby.
It's definitely it's a different ball game right now, and recruiting never stops. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. Recruiting never stops.
Bank, I want your take on that. Do you foresee a bunch of bounce backs as the coaching carousel spins? Because again, the beauty of the coaching carousel is some of the biggest moves haven't even probably been made yet. Like the Brian Kelly to LSU, the Shockers, the guys that jumped to the NFL. At this point, like Lincoln Riley to USC, it just happened after Bedlam. How do you see the transfer portal playing out this year after the first main year of NIL being done?
Yeah, the coaches I've talked to at different programs, their eyes are all firmly looking at A&M. They're not even not even really that's going to be the test case for NIL. Do those kids still want to stay and play in a horrible culture right now? But if you're getting paid well, does that matter? Or are those kids going to get the money that they were supposed to get? Do those big boosters that made up their collective, do they say, we're not paying another nickel until Jimbo gets fired? And Jimbo's owed, there's a lot going on there. And every coach in America is looking at A&M right now just to see how that super class, do they cut some of them loose? Is there not enough money to meet everything that was promised? Or are those kids going to get all the money they were promised? And they're like, what do we care if we go 3-9 or 9-3? What's the difference? We're making a fortune. I don't know, but that's the test case right now. I've had so many coaches mention to me that they are all watching A&M. So that's going to be the fun one.
Yeah, with that buyout, he has the greatest agent of all time because his buyout is massive. There's no offset.
Huge.
So yeah,
Huge.
he can't go be an analyst at Alabama and defray the cost. He's making the full boat, and then go take another job and make the full boat there if he'd want to. I don't know why he'd want to, but like you see kids like Shamar Stewart or from Miami. Right. Probably didn't even know where College Station was on a map until they sent him, the first, contract offer for an NIL deal. And then he's like, man, that place sounds great. College Station. That sounds like South Beach, kind of, let's go there. Yeah. And then he goes there, and Walter Nolan. They got absolute monsters in that class. Crazy. It's like, it's just
classes ever.
Yeah. It's like, if you injected that into Ohio State, it'd be the favorites for the national title. Cause you get those big athletic D linemen. You have like a Georgia type D line with those kind of guys. But when it goes off the rails, the greatest thing about my career at Ohio State as a player is I played on undefeated teams and I coached on a 6-7 team in 2011. So I've seen when the wheels fall off the wagon in the middle of in the middle of the Oregon Trail, and it's like, it is terrible. And guys, and now that these guys have, back then there was no transfer portal. Now these kids can pull the ripcord and see ya, and they can go get money elsewhere. And they could be, because again, I just always feel like these guys, now that they're allowed to have agents, these guys have NFL agents now as 18-year-olds. So there's a lot of back alley negotiating going on. Hey, Shamar wants to come back to Miami. And again, I'm just using him as an example. I don't know if any of that's true.
He's a great example. He's a great one to use.
Yeah. We watched him at camp, and I was like, that kid is 18 years old. I was like, me and you stood there and we watched him do everything. Like, he did his toe touch. I was like, yeah, he's the best kid I've ever seen at Ohio State camp, I think. It's like, what do you put?
That's why A&M forked over the money for him. Yeah. Walter Nolan, Brownlow Dinley. They got dudes. Those are guys you win national championship with. Yeah. So it's where are those guys going to be in 3 months, 4 months? Where are they going to be? Are they staying at A&M? Are they still being paid? Has the money been pulled? The boosters said, forget it. I don't know, but that's what everybody's watching right now, Kirk. Everybody's watching to see, and they're all trying to get in on those kids too. There used to be the no tamper. It's all tamper right now. They're tampering. So those kids are going to have plenty of places to go.
They can all transfer to Alabama or Georgia tomorrow. Those guys don't want to take those guys in a millisecond. Just say, hey, we'll do a mulligan. Let's get you right. Let's go win another national championship. Because those guys, again, like with Jimbo, because the hardest part about A&M is with Jimbo, basically his buyout, it's become so toxic there that you're almost forced to just fire him and clean house and start from scratch and kind of, you're going to lose a lot of these kids. But if the longer Jimbo hangs on, the less certain you're going to be, and you keep cutting these kids checks, but like these kids are all, whenever Jimbo gets whacked, because it's just a matter of if or when, not if, it's because I can't see how he comes back from a season like this where, they're out there stinking it up, losing to the bottom of the SEC schools with probably as talented of a roster as there is in the conference, minus the quarterback position. But yeah, that's the thing that I can't wait to see with the transfer portal is how many of these kids after 1 year, they either don't get their money or it's not what it's cracked up to be, or a coach takes off. Like if all these kids, if Brandon Ennis would have enrolled at Oklahoma and then all of a sudden Lincoln Riley takes off, and then, how many of those guys are going to go to USC? How many of them are going to go somewhere else? Maybe guys go to the NFL. Like, Brian Kelly who's he's Brian. I'm going to call him Brian the Bank Kelly, because that guy will have 17 NFL offers, because his agent is the master of, oh, the Browns are trying to sign Brian Kelly to a $150 million deal, and the Eagles and the Giants. And so LSU will probably give him like a 50-year extension after this 1 year that he's had. And
he can coach, right? I mean,
oh
you
my
understand
God.
that. He's a very unlikable person. He's a phony from what everybody's told me, but Brian Kelly can freaking coach.
Oh my
He's
God,
been out there with 4.0 student choir boys that walk little old ladies across the street. Now he's got dudes. I mean, freaking dudes. And there's more going to be coming. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
yeah.
all I got to say about the LSU situation is Les Miles won a national championship there.
Yep.
Ed Orgeron won a national championship there. Those guys are not looked at as above average coaches at all. Brian Kelly is an excellent coach. He's going to have more dudes on his side as we get going. He's challenging for a playoff spot right now in his first year. Just give him time. Just give him time, and then if Nick retires in the next year or so, I'm telling you, look out for LSU. When he gets Odell Beckham on his side and he gets Justin Jefferson on his side, he can coach, man. Look out.
Yeah, he goes against a Joe Burrow. He goes against a big-time quarterback. It's
right.
I'm telling you, I think he's – if he doesn't win Coach of the Year unanimously, I don't know who else could do it, because, that guy turned that place around. That place was – it was what Texas A&M was last year.
Right.
They were
laughing. They were laughing at him after 2 or 3 weeks. They were laughing at Brian Kelly. They ain't laughing now.
No, he's formidable. Nevada, what's your take on LSU, Brian Kelly, and just the overall importance of making the correct home run hire in coaching? Because again, you've talked ad nauseum about the importance of hiring Urban Meyer in 2012 and how that basically saved us from being under the ocean for however long. So when you miss on these coaching hires, you set the program back dramatically. You got to pay a buyout generally because it doesn't work out. Talk a little bit about making the correct hire, and if you were the powers that be, if you were the Board of Regents at Texas A&M, would you buy out Jimbo Fisher?
Well, they're going to. They're going to buy him out, and Urban Meyer is going to be the next head coach at Texas A&M. I'm calling it right now. I mean, that job's tailor-made for him. Gives him another shot. Gives him another shot. Texas just kind of suits, Meyer's sensibilities. It gives him a chance to compete with Nick Saban. And no, I think that's the move. I think that's going to happen. I think this thing is logical. I think he's the type of coach that can keep that class together and keep a lot of those recruits in the program. And I think that's the kind of splash hire that Texas A&M wants to make. But as for coaching, look at we talked about the job that Kelly's done at LSU. Look at the job that Brett Bielema has done at Illinois. You know what I'm saying? That program was in the crapper. And he's not a likable guy. His wife is.
Oh, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's a great dude. He is a great dude. I'm telling you, his TV personality is probably not likable, but his real life personality, he's a great dude. I had to throw that in there.
I've actually met him before, and I didn't find him particularly likable. But
he's my dude. He's my dude.
Yeah. I people bag on him. I understand why they bag on him. But
I do too.
He can coach, man. That guy can coach. He's got Illinois. We talk about Coach of the Year. To me, Illinois.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
The job that he's done there and the way he's turned that program around, he's got those guys playing. It's not because all of a sudden they got super talented and they got Juice Williams back or whatever it is. They're playing hard. They play tough, and they're a good team. And look, coaching matters at the college level. I've often said it's almost determinative of success. I think great coaches could coach anywhere. Nick Saban could coach anywhere. He has coached everywhere, and he's won everywhere. And, I think Urban Meyer's the same way. He's coached everywhere he can win. He takes Utah to an undefeated season. He takes Florida to 2 national championships. He takes Ohio State from Barton 6-7 to undefeated season. You know what I'm saying? So, great coaches can coach. And like I said, Brian Kelly, you don't want to have your kid as a GA up in the cherry picker with them or whatever it is. But in terms of playing, like I don't want to play LSU in the playoff. I've seen them play. I don't want to play those guys. Those guys are really good. They're really good. And that quarterback, he's got them going, man. I'm telling you what, they're a heck of a team. So if they make the playoff, they're going to be trouble for anybody who plays them. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah, Perkins is good, man.
I really want to see this LSU Georgia game. I mean, it won't shock me if Georgia just squashes them like a bug. But I'm telling you, the longer that game goes on and the longer that game stays close, Brian Kelly against Kirby Smart in a fourth quarter chess match, I'm telling you, Brian Kelly can freaking coach. He's just always been out there with a squirt pistol going against Nick with nuclear bombs. He's got dudes now. He doesn't have as many as he needs yet, but he can coach. And I'm telling you, he may get killed by Georgia. But if that game is close at the half and stays close into the third quarter, as we get to the fourth quarter, he can outcoach Kirby Smart. I'm telling you, he can.
Yeah, he's done a remarkable job of winning that locker room. I'm telling you, like I'm very impressed by Brian Kelly because
hold on though. How about his fake Southern accent though? Come on.
Oh, there's a lot.
It was amazing. I love it.
Was that the greatest thing ever? The fake Southern
accent? I loved it.
So awesome.
He's fake. He's as fake as a $4 bill, but I'm just saying. He's unlikable and he's a fake and he's a lot of things, but he is a great football coach. He's a ball coach.
I agree with y'all. There, Bill.
Oh, $4 bill. I like I said, I think he's pompous, he's crazy, but God, he's a great coach. But again, like I worked for Urban, and he doesn't exactly have like the greatest bedside manner. Like he's, I mean, he's not exactly. And I love Urban Meyer, but it's like when you're working for him. It was funny when I talked to a couple coaches before Urban got there. He got there in December, and I found out I was being retained, and I texted some guys that had worked for him, and all they said is buckle the fuck up. And I was like, oh God. And then man, when he came in, I was like, oh my God. It was hell on wheels. And again, but again, when you lose 7 losses and you got to change the culture, I didn't care. I was like, you can do whatever you want. I mean, I'll work 40 hours a day. I'll find, if we got 24, I'll make it into 40 somehow. And just, we got to get it right, and Brian Kelly got it right at LSU. So I give these guys credit when these kids, because there's a lot of sourpuss kids at LSU last year. A lot of kids wanted to transfer out. A lot of kids liked Coach Ogeron because they were, recruited him. And so he's got to come win that locker room over, keep kids from transferring, and then they start the season off and they clunk it up versus Florida State. And then, he somehow rights the ship, and it's hard. Like you lose that early season game, the kids are looking at you like this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. Right. And then, I give him a lot of credit.
Tennessee, remember that? They got killed by Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
That game was up. And people were just laughing at Brian Kelly. What a horrible hire. Will he survive the year? Will LSU buy him out? Come on. Hey, Lincoln Riley, look at the job Lincoln Riley's done.
Unbelievable.
That's again, you're meshing transfers and kids that might have liked the other coach, although I don't see how they could have liked Helton. But, I mean, that's an all-star team, and he has meshed them. I think they're really good. I like USC.
I don't want to see those guys. Are you kidding me?
That Caleb Williams is outstanding. He is so good. He is so good. I mean, he runs the zone read stuff, and he's got a cannon for arm he can throw on the run, and and he runs like a deer. I mean, that kid is legit. He's a great quarterback.
See, he's the same as Brian Kelly. The guy can coach, man, and he's going to get dudes at USC that he couldn't get defensively at Oklahoma. He's going to get them guys at Southern Cal. They're going to keep them guys home. He can coach again. That's a program you should be great. Your team should be great at USC. You couldn't be great with Clay Helton. You can be great with Lincoln Riley.
Oh God, yeah. You just go recruit all the guys from Bosco and Mater Dei. They play for the California State Championship. Shout out Big Dave and Mateo because they're going to be at that game, and that's their. Bosco's got a revenge factor against Mater Dei. They got them the first time, but you look at who those put out. They put out Bryce Young and just superstars across the board. if I'm Lincoln, I have my whole staff at that game, and I'm just like, come on in, Mateo. Come on, you can start right away. Get some of those Polynesian kids in there. Because when I played, it's funny because when I played, USC was Alabama. They were the ones you didn't want to see at the end. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean they get Los Angeles. Plus, it's LA. So what kid from across the country like Fred Davis and these random kids Bill Green's favorite guy of all time, Dre Walker, who weighed 480 pounds, he went from Glenville to SC. I'll never forget. I was like, Dre Walker's going to USC. Are you crazy? I remember sitting in there. Oh my God.
Wait a minute. The greatest story ever was told to me, and I believe it. He overslept for a Miami Dolphin 1 o'clock game.
No.
Oh my.
Yes.
Was he on the active roster?
Yes. Yes, he overslept. He missed the game. He showed up at halftime. They told him to go home. Yeah.
Oh my.
Top that one.
Oh my
Top
God.
Storyteller. Top that one.
He's probably making, if he's on active, he's probably making 75 grand a week. So, you think you could buy an alarm clock if you're making 75 grand a week. I mean, I was in the NFL and it's like, I used to get those checks. I was like, this is the greatest shit in the world. This is like heaven. Oh my God. I want to stay here forever. So it's like, you do everything you can to make sure you're on time. You're there. You're prompt. Do your workouts on time. Make your weight. Oh my God. That is unbelievable. I thought
for the home game.
Oh God. That's up there. Wow.
Yeah. Top that one, storyteller.
Well, no, the only thing that would have made that better is if he was a part of that 2011 class, the greatest O-line class in the history of Ohio State football. Tommy Brown, Chris Carter, Brian Bobeck, Tony Underwood. 0 career starts, 4 offensive linemen. No, we had 1. Tony Underwood made a start as a true freshman against Purdue and lasted for 2
series. And he got annihilated. Didn't they pull him off the field in the first quarter?
I literally argued with Jim Bowman about who we should have for a starting lineup because JB Schuhartz couldn't play. And I was like, and I swear to Jesus this happened. I said, we should play Corey Linsley at guard and put Jack Buhort at right tackle. And he's like, no, we're going to keep Corey on the bench and we're going to put Tony Underwood in at right tackle because he's played right tackle on the second. And I'm like, but Corey was I thought Corey was a really good player. He's only a sophomore. He never started a game. Strong as an ox, And then after 2 drives, we went to my lineup and we still ended up losing because we sucked that year. But it was just we left Corey Linsley, the highest paid center in the NFL, on the bench for Tony Underwood. And I was like, and I'm just a quality control coach, so I have no pull. I'm just they asked my opinion. I was like, I think Jack and Corey are our 2 best guys. If we're trying to get our best 5, it's Norwell, Corey, Brewster, Mike Adams, and Linsley. Because those guys, they all played in the NFL, and 4 of them got drafted. 2 of them were the highest paid players in the history of their position at one point. So, you look at the talent, and it's that's not a bad 5, for Ohio State, given how bad we were. But we played Tony Underwood. But no, Chris Carter, I'll never forget. Do you remember Chris Carter's signing day? You probably don't, but I lived it.
I do. They had the incident at the school.
Oh my God. When they described that, I was like, he was like the scout, the boys, the ROTC leader. And he told the girl that he could measure her.
Measure her for the dress.
He had to hand measure her for her dress. So he got arrested for molestation or something. And I'm like, that was the dumbest thing ever. And then there was a snow day in Cleveland that day. So we didn't get his letter. And then we find out that he got arrested. And I was like, man, run as fast as you can from this kid. And we still signed him because, we can't turn anybody away at the end. But I was like, the only thing that would have made that class better is if we would have had Dre Walker in it. Oh my God. That would have been
or if there would have been a great nickname for that class. Oh, wait, 3-star heaven. There was.
Oh God. But I don't even but you know what? There's got to be you guys got to have a 2-star or a 1-star, man. You got to lower the scale. Cause I was a 3-star. It's what the fuck? I mean, I'm not the same as those guys. Oh my God. I don't know. I remember I got the first day of practice and I saw this guys. I was like, none of these guys can play. I'm not they're having a bad day. I'm I mean, these guys couldn't play at Youngstown State. I don't think. I can tell after about 5 minutes with a guy if he's got a shot. And all these guys, I was like, there's just no ability. I mean, it's it's not that they don't know the plays. It's not that they're whatever. They just literally can't play. And it's when you can evaluate these kids. Good.
Kirk, how long did it take Corey Linsley to start at Ohio State?
He didn't start till the 4th year at the program.
Oh, is that right?
He didn't start a single game
Oh,
because I remember, I'll never forget this. So we were going through the spring game in 2012, and we're kind of going through like how long are guys going to play? Because if you're a good player, you don't play in the spring game, or you play like one drive, and like CJ Stroud ain't playing into the fourth quarter of a spring game. So we're like, well, Jack and Corey should probably play a drive, maybe two, and Mike Vrabel, who I love to death, literally said, Leslie hasn't even started a game, and you guys are going to pull him after two drives. And I was like, he's having a great spring. He's really good. And we don't have another guy behind him. So it's like, we don't need him to get hurt in an exhibition. And these young guys got to play. But Vrabel like dogged us. It was great. I was like, I don't care what you say. He's playing two drives and he's done, period. End. So, but like I thought Corey was really good. He's a guy that I never saw lose a rep of one-on-one pass rush. And that's a hard drill for offensive linemen. But he was so strong. Guys would try to bull rush him, and he was like running into like a brick wall. And I mean, and guys don't, I see centers get bull rushed into infinity in the NFL. I saw guys in the NFL that were starters in the NFL that would win 1 out of 100 reps of one-on-one pass rush. They'd lose every rep, but then they go start on Sunday and play and be fine. But Corey never lost a rep. And then, gets to the league and you see what he is. I mean, I don't know. It was like I was in like the twilight zone where I was like, why don't we play Corey? So
what about how great of a coach Mike Vrabel is? I mean, did
God.
you know he would be someday one of the greatest coaches in the NFL, which I think he is?
I think when he was young, it was weird because Urban almost didn't retain him. Urban had to like interview him
He
five
had to
times,
He had to prove himself. Like he gave him a temporary. Give me a month and show me what you can do.
Yeah, and like I always liked Vrabes. Like Vrabes, like he used to always come back and work out with us in winter conditioning. One day, like on a Friday, like Al Johnson had us playing dodgeball, like for conditioning, and I hit Vrabel right in the head with a dodgeball. And like I don't have a good arm, I don't have an accurate arm, but the ball sailed on me. And I hit him right in the head, and he was playing. I used to always call him Austin Powers because his chest hair looks like Austin Powers. Like it's like unbelievable. And I used to call him Austin Powers. He get pissed at me, but like I loved Vrabes, and like. When he got retained, I was happy because him and Luke walking around, it's like two Neanderthals just walking up and down the hallways. Like, I see him coming at me, and I'd always, because I was pretty jacked back then, and I was like, every time I see Luke, I say, I'm ready for you to shoot your double because I'm going to stuff it. And he'd laugh at me because I outweighed him by probably 75 pounds at least. So that's probably the only way I'd have a chance against Luke. But it didn't surprise me because Vrabel, he's a guy that was a pro's pro. He does stuff the right way. He's a hard ass. He doesn't take, he's not impressed by anybody or anything, or he's very Belichickian, where it's like it's not about what you did or what you used to do. It's about what you're doing right now, what you did last game, last play. He's a great players coach. He recognizes greatness. Like he's so complimentary, in post games and stuff, talking about how great Derrick Henry is because Derrick Henry is probably, in my opinion, should be the MVP of the NFL because I've never seen a guy at running back who's so much a part of the damn offense because he takes 45 touches a game and he gets 180 yards and he's just hell on wheels to tackle because you see these DBs, man, and they see Derrick Henry coming at him and it's like literal hell because that guy, he's literally like trying to tackle like a tank or something because he doesn't go down. And he's a great guy. He doesn't bitch about it. Like a lot of guys don't want 40 carries, but Henry does. He wants it. He wants to run guys over and kill guys. And he's not worried about, sustaining himself. And he'll probably be the mayor of Nashville when he retires.
I just don't see that roster. I look at that roster every year and I think it's a 4 or 5 win team and they go to the playoffs every year and they should be the easiest team to stop. They have no weapons on the outside. They have no quarterback.
Yeah.
Their defense isn't loaded with all pro guys, but he is a real. And I always thought he was a yeller, screamer, fire up the troops kind of guy. We watched him on Hard Knocks when he was with the Texans. He's not. He's a cerebral, Bill Belichick type coach. He's out coaching people, and I think he's tremendous.
Yeah.
Dude, when Vrabel was named head coach, I ran out and immediately placed an under bet on their season total on wins.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be terrible. I didn't think there was any chance in heck that he'd be a successful NFL coach. And so, like, talk about being wrong. I literally placed, and I'd never done that before. And they're like, we announced the coach is Mike Vrabel. I'm like, I'm betting the under on the season total right there. Yeah. But no,
I get it. You thought he was like a hype man. And
Yeah,
he's not.
exactly.
He's very
No.
cerebral. He knows he outcoaches people to win these games. He can't throw the foot. His team can't throw the football. How do they
Oh yeah.
win? And they don't have a great deal. They don't have the 86 Bear defense either.
No, they don't.
No.
And he gets it out of his guys, man. Like he's
Right.
they traded AJ Brown, who I thought was a great player. They got first round pick. They got cheaper with Treylon Burks, who had a nice game last week. But Derrick Henry is he is the straw that stirs the drink for those guys, and he is a mofo to bring down. And I love watching him run. I take him on every fantasy team I can get him on because you see these guys cower in fear. And honestly, I can't blame him. If I was 195-pound corner and I had to tackle that guy, it's like a lot of these guys like to make what they call a business decision. They catch a cramp or they try to go low and close their eyes. And but yeah, you're right. Like when Vrabel got that job, like the Texans defense that he ran was like 28th in the NFL. So it wasn't like they were, you usually see these coordinators that have the number 1 defense, number 2 offense, and they go get a head coaching job somewhere. But I mean, it wasn't like they were lighting the world on fire there. But but again, he's meshed well. I think it was kind of the perfect fit for him because he's a defensive guy. He's got the ultimate defensive offense with Derrick Henry, where you burn the clock up. You protect your defense. They're tough. They've drafted well. I mean, it's funny. Nick Petit-Frere is playing fantastic. He's probably going to make the all-rookie team. He hasn't, I think he's given up maybe 1 sack or no sacks so far. So it's like, for a starting right tackle, he started every game. I mean, him and Thayer both started this past weekend. So shout out to those guys. I mean, to start as a rookie in the NFL as hard as can be to do. And those guys are doing it and playing great.
Yeah. Well, I apologize for taking us on a 20-minute Mike Vrabel trip here, but I don't know how it happened, but.
Oh, I don't care.
Vrabel's special, man. He's special guy. And I'm glad he's a great coach because he's one of my favorites.
Oh, he's hilarious, man. I'm telling you, like Vrabes, like coaching with Vrabes, because he's kind of bipolar. Like he's weird because some days he'll be super cool with you, and then the next day he'll act like you don't even exist, or he'll be. So I never knew what Vrabes we were getting like on a given day, and it was just like it was always funny because I just like because I was always kind of treated him the same, like whatever. But him and Luke were treats to be around because they used to dog Pantone. They'd call him the Great Pantini and. Pantone, can you lick up these envelopes? We had to write all these letters every day for the guys before meetings, and they'd hand them over to the Great Pantini, and he'd have to stuff the envelopes. But it was fun. Like I said, like the 2012 staff, as fun as it was like I worked with Tom Herman, who became the head coach at Texas, Stan Drayton's head coach at Temple, Zach, who's Menace to Sports. Then I had Vrabel, with the Titans, Fickle, he wants to be the Ohio State head coach eventually. Kerry, who wants to be the Cincinnati head coach. I mean, Everett went on to the NFL, went to a bunch of places. So it was a good staff. I mean, we had some guys. And then Shane Bowen, who is my defensive GA, is now the defensive coordinator for the Titans. So it was like, me and Shane used to always joke to each other about, jobs and stuff. And he actually has a good job. He's DC in the league. But I love Shane. I was texting him after the game. I was happy for him when they beat the Packers. Sorry, Nevada. But they were getting on that plane and they didn't all make it home, but Shane made it home, so that was good. Nevada, spinning back to the game, how do you see this game playing out? How do you see the Bucks opening up? We had some great questions on here. We had a guy.
Yeah. Do we have questions, Kirk? You're the moderator, man.
Oh God, we got a lot. Okay, let's talk about some of these questions real quick because I keep spinning back to them, but. I blame Banks. You want to talk about Vrabes, and Vrabel's hilarious to talk about. So
I don't know how I got off on that.
We got to tell some Vrabel stories, man, because he's like, again, of all of the unlikely guys to be great Ohio State coaches, like Vrabes, like comes out of nowhere. Like, I mean, he gets the job because Fickle, because Tressel gets fired, Fickle gets promoted, and there's one open spot on the thing, and he didn't really have time to interview anybody. It's like a month before the season or 2 months before the season starts and hire your best friend to be the linebackers coach. So I mean, he kind of got into it to help his boy out, but it was crazy. I mean, I remember in the winter he was running and we thought he was going to make a comeback in the league for the Patriots or the Chiefs, like in the playoffs. Like, cause he was like tuning up and getting in shape. And I was like, is this dude about to go catch another ring? At the end of the season, like National Signing Day is going to say, yeah, I'm going to go play in the Super Bowl now, but he's the kind of guy that could have done it. Here's a great one. All right. AWC, that is my dude. Who has a bigger running back issue this Saturday? Ohio State or the team up north? I'm going to start with you, Nevada.
Clearly, they do. I mean, I like all three of our guys. I mean, I'll put Xavier in there too. I think they're all, Dallin can clearly play. Trey's just got to get out of his own head, but he can get it done. And I mean, he'll break one, and everybody that's been dogging him will be cheering him by the end of the day. And Mayan is just a horse. So I like our running backs. I don't think we have nearly as big a problems as Michigan is. I think Michigan's got real problems. I think Corum's, I don't think if he goes, he's going to be severely limited. At this point in time, I don't even know if he's going to go. His stability test was not good today. And I think that situation's degraded to the point where I think he's doubtful to out. And Edwards, by all accounts, has got a broken hand. And I'll play against the running back with a broken hand, because when you go beyond that, they've got absolutely nothing. So I think Michigan's definitely got severe issues. For a team that wants to run the ball, they've got the bigger issues at the running back position. I think it's a clear advantage to Ohio State.
What about you, Bank? You on the same boat with Nevada on that?
Oh yeah. Michigan really, they've got a problem. I don't think Blake Corum is going to play. I think it would be foolish for him to play. And I think you talked about business decisions before. I think he's hurt, and I don't think he's going to play. If he does, man, I mean, I think he's risking a lot by playing. But then, like I say, at Ohio State, I mean, they plugged in Dallin Hayden last week. And, I mean, what more could you want? I mean, the guy, he made his bones last week. If Dallin Hayden plays poorly last week and fumbles the ball, misses holes, they would have lost to Maryland. That was a losable game. And I thought Dallin Hayden saved their bacon last week. So props to him. He made his bones. At some point, the recruiting rankings don't matter. What you did against Rutgers in the fourth quarter of a 61-3 game doesn't really matter. That game was important. And that was a losable football game for Ohio State. And, that kid stepped up. He didn't have a lot of pressure carries. He's had a lot of no stress carries all year. And there's difference, Kirk, as you know. It's a lot different blocking somebody against Rutgers when it's 81-2.
Oh, God.
Blocking somebody at Penn State on the road in a tie game. You know what I mean? There's a huge difference. Dallin Hayden, man. I mean, I was so impressed with that kid. So Ohio State's fine this week, running back wise. And I think Michigan's in a lot of trouble running back wise. So yeah, I don't think that's really much, I don't think there's much doubt there.
Yeah. Who plays right guard on Saturday? It's got to be Enoch. There's no way John Fryer could butt it, and it would have to be Enoch, I'd say. What do you think, Bank?
Well, that's who they went to last week, when Matt went out. Yeah, boy, you hate to see that. Matt Jones, man, he's a heck of a football player. Yeah. I mean, he has come so far from where he was when they first put him on the field. You hate to not have him, but it's part of football. It's the way it goes. Next man up, and away you go. I think it will be Enoch Mamahi, and he gets all week to prepare with the ones, and let's hope he plays well.
You agree with that, Nevada?
Well, I think Matt's going to play, and I wouldn't count out Josh Fryer being in there. Josh Fryer, was terrific when he stepped in for Dewan at tackle. He can play guard, and I know they like what he can give. He can move. He's big. He's strong. He's smart. So, again, I'm a big Enoch fan, but my info, I think Matt's going to play. I think Matt's going to go on Saturday. I think it's all hands on deck on Saturday, and I think Matt goes.
Bill, did you ever see Chris Spielman play at Massillon?
I saw him play our Perry team. The first game of the year, it was at Massillon. He ran a punt back. He ran over about 3 guys, and I thought he was going to kill somebody. He was a bad dude, and he annihilated our Perry team, Kirk. I mean, it was bad. I mean, he ran the ball. I mean, it was unbelievable. Just a great player. Not as good as Andy Katzmore, second best linebacker I've ever seen in Ohio, Chris Spielman. As a high school player, you see him run a punt back with that head of steam. A lot of people made business decisions that day, and the ones that didn't got trampled. I mean, trampled. Yes, I saw him. I saw him play probably 2 or 3 times. But the one against our high school team that was brutal.
I was waiting for someone to ask if you were there when Paul Brown was coaching Massillon.
Did not see any of that. Just missed it. Just missed it.
Nevada, is Spielman the best high school defensive player you've ever seen, or is it Katzenmoyer?
It's got to be Katzenmoyer. I mean, Katzenmoyer was just different. Katzenmoyer was scary. I saw Katzenmoyer play twice, and both times I was severely terrified for the other team because I really thought that he was legitimately going to kill somebody. I mean, he would hit guys and they would just disappear. And I'd never seen that before. I've seen knockdown tacklers, I've seen drag down tacklers, but I've never seen guys just make some guys disappear. And he would make guys disappear. And it was terrifying. And when he came, I think we were all robbed, but seeing him in the NFL by that neck injury, because boy, what a freak of nature and what a joy to watch. He was fun to watch at Ohio State, but he was downright terrifying in high school.
Is he your biggest what if? And I'll start with you, Bank. Is Katzenmoyer, he got hurt on a fluke play. He described it. I interviewed him. It was great. He said, it was like a Friday walkthrough and they did like onside kick drill, no pads on, and some like rookie undrafted guy, he goes to recover the ball and the guy dives, hits him in the neck, and it caused this chronic like stinger that never went away. And he was forced to retire. It was either like risk paralysis or retire. But he gave a big speech about Bill Belichick was going to like build the defense around him because Bill Belichick got there in 2000, and Andy was like been in the league for a year or two, and he looked at his traits and he's like, I've worked with LT and some of these guys, and he didn't say his LT, but like when he has these young feature super athletic players, like he knows how to use them and utilize them, and he was going to build a defense around Andy. I know, according to Andy, this is Andy's story, but I mean, is he your biggest what if, Bank?
Oh man, I saw him play in high school again against our Perry team, and back then I wasn't in the media, and I had a crew. Like we would go to high school games. We loved going to high school games, seeing great players, and I told my crew, my guys, my Stark County guys, I'm like this big soft ass guy from mid Ohio, because back then Columbus football was not very good. Like it is now. It's amazing right now. It wasn't back then. And I said, he's going to come up to play Perry, man. Perry's got all these big, tough, hard-nosed kids. They'll grind that big dude up and run him. Yeah, after about 5 plays, it was like, this is the greatest player I've ever seen. He stood in the middle of the field. If you ran wide, he got you. If you ran up the middle, he killed you. If you threw the ball, he was in coverage to knock it away or pick it off. And yeah, he's the best linebacker I've ever seen in Ohio, and I worked for Scout and worked for 24/7. I've been out on these ball fields all over Ohio for 20 years, but Andy was the best linebacker I've ever seen. I mean, probably the best defensive player I've ever seen. With Orlando Pace, the best lineman, Maurice Claret, the best running back, Charles Woodson, the greatest all-around player I've ever seen. But Andy, probably the best defensive player I've ever seen.
What about you, Nevada? Give me a couple of your guys that have stood out over the years.
Well, I'll just go with my greatest regrets, man. I'm going to go to my old favorite, Torrance Gibson. I wish that we could have seen Torrance Gibson play a little bit more, because boy, it's like you just, if you want just some fun, go back and watch his high school highlights and just watch him play. He's playing at the highest level of Florida football, which at the time, Florida football is still obviously absolutely fantastic, but back then it was cranking, and he was playing at the highest level, and he would just glide all over the field past guys. And the fact that we didn't get a chance to see him fully at Ohio State, in a fully integrated system where he's at, with Hartline coaching him at wide receiver, with a first-rate quarterback thrown to him, I still think he could have been, the next Randy Moss, and that always makes me sad that we didn't get to see more. We had that one little spring game where I think he caught 2 touchdown passes, and that's it. But that still makes me sad.
Yeah, he was. I had guys in the Woody Hayes telling me he's the biggest freak to ever play at Ohio State, and this is like guys that have been around like Joey Galloway, and I'm like that's pretty gaudy. Like come on, we've had some freaky dudes come out of Ohio State, Galloway, Orlando, and they said that about Torrance, and these aren't guys that it's the first football player they've ever seen in their life, and it's not like it's they went to their first, rivals All-American camp. It's like, wow, these are the greatest players ever. It's like, no, well, you should have been here when Clowney was here. You should have been here when, no, these guys they're not impressed much. And they said that all tournament. So I was like, so that opened my eyes. Cause sometimes like when people say stuff, I always evaluate the comment and who's saying it and how long have they been around and who have they been around. And so it really raised some eyebrows to me. And then, when what happened to him was a tragedy where he basically got, a girl said something, he did something, he didn't do it. And he was off to Neverland and never heard from him again, which is sad, but it's part of the gig. Bank, all right, we're getting the Tim Walton questions out. I was waiting on these. Bank, your assessment of Tim Walton so far this year. I think it's been easily the weakest spot of our entire team, but give me your assessment on Tim Walton thus far. Are you surprised by how much our corners have struggled? Because we've got some talented guys, but man, they just haven't been good. And of all the teams that I'm scared of, not scared, but styles make fights. USC and their quarterback and throwing game is something I'm not really dying to see against our cornerbacks, but I love your take on that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised because why would you not think that Denzel Burke would be better this year? He should be, right? By all intents. You threw him out there as a true freshman last year. It's pretty good. Kind of tailed off at the end, but you thought spring ball and Timmy Walton, NFL guy coming in, and he'll be better for sure. And then why would you not think Cam Brown would be tremendously better this year than he was last year? You'd think that. And then the young guys, you would think, well, Hancock, J.K. Johnson, those guys are definitely going to blossom this year, and it's going to be lockdown city, and it's not. It's not. They're just none of those guys are better than they were last year, and I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. I mean, there's no way that Tim Walton is not a better technician than Kerry Combs and Matt Barnes were last year. There's just no way. Perry Eliano, I think in terms of pure technical coaching ability, not take the recruiting out of it, just on-field coaching and development, I would take Tim Walton and Perry Eliano over Matt Barnes and Kerry Combs, but we have not seen that this year. Now the safety's been great. Ransom and Hickman been amazing. Like no issue there at all. But the corners, and they should be better, and I don't know why they're not better.
Yeah, Nevada, do you agree with the assessment on Walton? Like I said, I don't know what's going on in that room. And when I hear a guy like Jalen Ramsey openly say that Tim Walton's the best cornerbacks coach he's ever had, from a technical standpoint, and that's the guy that's making $30 million a year to play corner in the NFL, saying that it's not like when he was with the Jaguars and he was a rookie and how good he was technically and how he made him into the player that he became, his work habits, his study habits, his technical stuff. That's pretty gaudy stuff. But so I was really stunned by how the guys have been playing. Nevada, what's your take on Tim Walton thus far?
Boy, he gets a big incomplete for me right now, just because the players are so talented, but it's clearly the weakest spot on our defense right now, on a defense that's improved across the board. You look about how good our defense is, and then you look at how bad our cornerbacks have been. So it's a tribute to how good our front seven is. But no, I mean, I'm looking at guys that I'm Hancock to me is a surefire, can't miss type of defensive back. And he looks a little lost back there. And at some point we talk about, coaching's determinative of success. Well, if you're not getting it done, I like I said, I'm not failing him. I'm not ready to jump off the fire Tim Walton train yet or whatever. But I'm giving him an incomplete for the season because we need to see more data.
I agree. I just thought of something over this week, and I talked to one of the original Wisemen. This was great. And he told me a story about a recruit. So I'm going to throw this to you, Bank, when I finish this story. A receiver wanted to come here really badly. He was brought here on a visit by a former Ohio State player, former receiver. Loved it. It was his dream school. Kid was a big kid, lanky, kind of under mature, muscular. Not the fastest kid in the world. Loved Ohio State. Was his dream school. Got turned down by Bill Conley. He said he wasn't good enough to play here. The kid ended up being Larry Fitzgerald. Chris Carter brought him here. Said, hey, I've known this kid forever. He's got great ball skills. He's raw, but he was going to one of the military schools. But Chris Carter pounded the table for Larry Fitzgerald to come to Ohio State. And Bill Conley said he ain't good enough to be a Buckeye because we've got Chris Vance and whoever else. But I was just dying because I heard that story. It's like sometimes you hear these things and you're just like, you look back and first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best set of hands ever. Bank, do you have any stories like that off the top of your head where it's a guy that either youth recognized or maybe a high school coach said, hey, this guy's the guy, and then you just get like the bluff back from Ohio State? You just say, hey guys, you should take a look at this guy, and they say, you don't know what you're talking about, you're dumb. Then he goes off somewhere and he just tears it up. Do you have a guy like that in your repertoire? You probably have about 30 of them, but what's one that sticks out to you?
I can tell you a guy that's starting right now, middle linebacker at Ohio State. And the best is like Mark Pantoni, who's the greatest, like in his job, he's the Babe Ruth or the Michael Jordan or whatever term you want to use. He's the best in the business at his job. He was one of the first to do this, personnel director, whatever his title is now. I don't know. Everybody's got him now, but nobody's got one like him. And I was texting him about Tommy Eichenberg, like long time, and Ohio State didn't offer him until midway through his senior year. And he's like, I know, I'm pounding the table for him. I'm trying. I'm like, dude, he wants to be a Buckeye. He's the best, one of the best high school linebackers I've ever seen. He's right. Just, he's not Katzenmoyer. He's not Spielman, but he's Kyle Berger, and this is what Kyle Berger would have been if he wouldn't have ripped his knee up a couple times. He's the same player as Kyle Berger. If you run wide, he gets you. You run up the middle, he gets you. If he blitzes, he sacks the quarterback. If he's in coverage, he knocks the ball away or he picks it off. And Pantoni wanted him so bad. He wanted them, and they finally offered him. I mean, it was into his senior year when they offered him. He's committed to Boston College. But that's the one, like I say, I got 100 misses I could tell you about. I could tell you about Mike. I thought Mike Thomas couldn't play at Akron. I could tell you that story too. But of the success story, Tommy Eichenberg, because he's playing right now. And I was the one, just on the message board saying, you got to offer him, you got to offer him. And it was like, you know more than the coaches, huh? Well, I don't normally, but on this one I do. I know more than Billy Davis on this one. This guy can play. This guy is not just going to be a good player. He's going to be a star at the college level, and then that one, kind of got it right. Now, last year he was not very good, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't very good, but man, this is what he is now, is everything I thought Tommy Eichenberg would be, and more. He's better than I even thought he would be. But, I had that one, like my dad said before he passed away, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So.
Are you surprised that he didn't make, not the finalists, he didn't make the semi-finalist cut for the Buckeyes Award? Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, and I mean, I think he could be nominated for, defensive player of the year all overall, not just linebacker. I mean, I don't know. I don't watch every team every week. So I watch Ohio State twice every week. I watch them live and I watch them on Sunday morning. I mean, I know how great that guy is. He's everything and more I thought he would be. When I watch those games twice, certain guys like stick out every week to me. Like Eichenberg sticks out on the first watch. Like the guy that watches the Ohio State game drunk, he knows Eichenberg's really good. Okay. But another guy sticks out to me week after week after week after week is Ronnie Hickman. Ronnie Hickman is really freaking good. And, I know he announced today that he's coming out early. It's the right decision. I think he's going to get drafted pretty high, and I think he is really going to be a heck of a pro. He is so smart. Things that you don't see when you watch it once, especially drunk, you're not going to see it. But even sober, you might not catch it. But when you watch it a second time and kind of key in on this guy, he's better the second time. Every week when I watch the game, he doesn't really stick out the first time. The second time, it's like, that guy's a great player. He is a great football player. So not to go off on a tangent there, but Ronnie Hickman's he's special.
Yeah, like I think he's one of those guys you're not going to realize how good he is. So he's got, and then you see him starting in the NFL as a rookie next year and getting six interceptions, and you're like, wow, that guy is really good. And nobody was talking about how much they loved Ronnie Hickman when he was on the team. Nevada, any guys that you in your history you're like, man, I think I love this guy. I saw his film, I've heard about him, and we just kind of drug our feet on him. For me, like Taylor Decker was one where I literally got laughed at when I said, "Why don't we offer this guy? Because he's 6'8", and we had like I literally called him like oh god, what's the Willy Wonka guys? The little midgets, the little orange guys. I was like, that's what
Oompa
our
Loompas.
O-line, the Oompa Loompas. I was like, we have the Oompa Loompas in our recruiting class right now. So we had like Brian Bobeck, and God bless, I love Jacoby Bourne to death, but he's like 6 feet tall. I was like, we got to get some guys that actually can like, dunk a basketball at some point so we can have some tackles. And I literally got laughed at. We watched this film and I was like, this guy's got Notre Dame, and I was like, we're not offering him. He's like, he's not going to come to camp. I was like, I don't care if he comes to camp. Now again, I'm a QC, so I'm a quality control, so I have no pull. But then, as soon as Urban shows up, we offer, and Ed comes with Tim Hinton, and we flipped him. But I was just like, why on earth would we not offer that kid? It was hilarious. But does anybody stand out to you, Nevada, in terms of guys that maybe you were higher on the local populace or the recruiting rankings, and they turned out to be really, really good players?
Well, my one was Michael Thomas. I mean, Michael Thomas, I was all in on him. One of my best sources had told me about him, was talking about him, and I was just going on and on and on and on about what a great player. And I went all in on Michael Thomas. And then he redshirts, not his freshman year, but he redshirts like his sophomore year. And
yeah, that was brutal. Yeah, he fuzzed. So I think TJ's in this chat because he said we need more TJ Downings on the team and less Kirk Barton's. Ask Bill Green. I'm going to put that comment up on the screen. So obviously TJ's logged in the chat because I can tell by your grammar that that's you, TJ. Look, he said need more TJ. Like when it's all in all undercase and there's no periods or whatever. TJ's texting. He wants to do a pod. I was like, but Bank, I love it. Someone brought up Matt Christopher.
County Lake. Yep.
Yeah, Matt Christopher. Was he a full ride guy to Ohio State?
Oh, absolutely. They had such high hopes for him. I think he got hurt too. I think and probably had to medically retire. If I'm trying to remember, great high school player, one of the top high school Stark County linebackers ever, no doubt about it. He was a Spielman type. He's not Chris, but he was that type. Yep.
See, this is great. So TJ on the screen, Kirk Barton, 1.5 stars coming out of college because that doesn't even.
Where'd that half come from?
It probably came from TJ trying to make sure you can try to get on the podcast. I'm going to block him. I know. You used to ball your stars on Ty Hall and Matt Maisel. This is the superstars of the class. Nevada, are you back?
I'm back. My battery's dying, man. This eCamp just eats my battery up like crazy right now. So it's just eating it up, and
we got to get you this thing called a phone charger.
I know.
Amazing invention. I know they don't have those in Manhattan Beach, but I can send
we need a
GoFundMe
for my charger. It's like, jeez.
Fill so my battery up.
Oh my gosh, this is so bad.
You're talking about Mike Thomas and
no, I took so much grief about Mike Thomas and I was like, man, I can't because I'd never seen anybody redshirt their sophomore year. That was like the weirdest thing ever. And then he comes back. They never
redshirt JUCO guys. That's how awful he was.
Yeah.
No, and then he turns out to be one of the great NFL wide receivers of all time. And he was the one guy that because the source that I got this from is just never wrong on players. And when he told me how good this kid was, I was like, "You sure?" He's like, "Yeah, he's really, really, really talented." And that was one of my favorites. But before my battery runs out, I want to talk about the game. I want to get you guys on game predictions for the game on Saturday. I know we've got 207 people listening right now. I know people are dying to hear what you guys think. I want to lock you guys down on your Tuesday. I realize by Friday it can change, but as of Tuesday right now, what's your prediction for the Ohio State-Michigan game score on Saturday? Bill Green first.
Well, I make my official prediction Friday morning. But I just, I'll say, I said it earlier in the chat. I just think Ohio State's the better team. I think they're a national type team. I think Michigan is Big Ten good, and I think there's a difference there. And I think there's a huge difference in quarterback. And then when you throw in the intangibles of home crowd, had it kicked in your face for 364 days. Yeah, I think Ohio State should win, and they should win easily. But I'll have my official, 1,000-word report with the official score prediction on Friday morning on the site.
Love it.
But I get a little preview there. I mean, there's no way I'm picking Michigan to win, and I doubt if I'll pick them to cover. I think Ohio State can. If Ohio State plays their best and Michigan plays their best, Ohio State will win easily. Ohio State has to be off their game for Michigan to stay in it or possibly win. And I expect Ohio State to be at their best.
Do you want me to go to Nevada while your battery is still functioning, or do you want me to go?
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
You want to bring it home? I also want to make sure if you're at 2%, then we don't lose you again.
Yeah, well, that's true. Maybe I should. Maybe I should go before. Yeah, I'm with Bill on that. I think, and I'm going to say it right now. I think Ohio State plays their best game of the year. I think this is like a Clemson playoff type of performance. The good Clemson game, not the bad Clemson games. But I think this is one of those games where we come out and we kind of go, wow, that's the Ohio State team we've been waiting to see all year long, where they hit on all three factors. They hit on special teams, they hit on offense, they hit on defense. I think we make Michigan one-dimensional. And I think it's going to be a really long day for Michigan. And I think something like 35-17, 35-14 or something like that. I think it's going to be one of those types of games where Ohio State lays it on them good, and I don't think it'll be close. And I'm laying the points, and gladly I'm betting Ohio State every which possible way, in parlays and teasers and the money line, the spread, and if they let me parlay it to horse racing games, I'll do that as well. But it's I'm all in on Ohio State this weekend.
Well, man, I hope that if you win all that money, we get you a brand new spanking phone. It's got a sweet battery in it.
Yeah, I need a charger. Man, I got a great phone. I need a charger.
I'll get you a MagSafe charger for Christmas. I think we're gonna kick the shit out of them. I really do. Like, I've talked to guys on the team. These guys, they're cold-blooded. They're killers. Some of these guys that I really trust, and I really, and again, like last year, I didn't feel that from the leaders. Last year, they walked into a fist fight. They got their asses kicked, and last year they had Aiden Hutchinson, who I thought was a really good player. He turned out to be a fantastic player, number 2 pick in the draft. Probably should have been the number 1 pick in the draft because he's outperforming the kid from Georgia pretty handily statistically. Emotional leader. Again, our guys, they're scoreboard watchers. They're kids. We beat Michigan State 56-7. Michigan State beat Michigan last year by some miracle of God. And the other guys thought that we beat them by 50. They beat Michigan. We'll walk in there. All we got to do is 1 by 1. And they walked into an absolute brawl. And then, you can't you can't walk into a fist fight in that game, especially up there. I never took it for granted going up there just because it's so hard to do. But then you got the after the game, and Bill Green, the prophet, he gets inside the Michigan program. He posts on BuckeyeScoop.com one of the most prophetic statements I've ever read in my life. It was almost like he had Gray Sports Almanac. He says, the guy said, they think they're a 7-on-7 team, think they're soft, think they're a bunch of pussies. They're not going to want to get hit in the mouth. It's going to be cold. It's going to be a little rainy. It's going to be snowy. It's going to be our senior day. It's going to be a towering inferno. And the 7-on-7 team from Columbus that blows everybody out because nobody wants to hit them in the mouth isn't going to be ready for it. And you wrote that, and I was like, wow, that's pretty bold.
Well, I mean, that wasn't me. That wasn't my prediction.
Well, no, you got that from somebody inside Michigan's program. Yes. So but I mean, that they had a need.
I'll probably repost that again this week, not for this year, but for what was said last year. I mean, I'll repost that again this year, and maybe I'll try to get people out there.
People out there on YouTube, Bill Green says Ohio State's a 7-on-7 team. That's the thing. That's the quote for the thing.
It was last year. Well, I didn't argue with the guy. Hey, he was right. I didn't argue with him.
He was right.
They were a 7-on-7 team that didn't want to get hit. I mean, he had them pegged. I mean, that's who they were.
Yeah,
they weren't physical enough. They weren't physical enough to stand up to Oregon. And what more do you need to say?
That's all you need to say. And Oregon didn't have Kayvon Thibodeau, who's the best end in the country last year. They didn't have Justin Flo, who's their best linebacker. They had to fly from Oregon all the way to Columbus and play in a noon football game. So every possible every possible attribute that could have favored Ohio State, and we got dog walked by Oregon.
Yeah.
Like they had to fly 6 hours in a little plane and get off and play a noon game, which is, that's 8 a.m. body time, and they just beat our ass. I mean, that was as perplexing. Like when I saw that Kayvon Thibodeau wasn't playing, I was like, if I was those tackles, man, I'd have been celebrating in the locker room like, God, we have to play the top 5 D end, and whoever they're putting out there ain't as good as that guy. So, but no, I thought we had everything squared away, and we just got dog walked. It was bad. And then, to get back to the Michigan prediction, it's like, these guys, like when Jim Harbaugh has the balls, and he'd been cooking that up in his little head for a while to say Ryan Day, he's the guy's born on third base, but thinks he hit the triple. That's like just a big, like, you ain't shit, dude. You took over Urban's program. They left all the infrastructure in place. You just waltzed into there. And, so again, like, cause there's a feeling around the coaching, spectrum that's what Ryan Day is. And like, I don't think he's that, because I think he's enhanced our offense. I think that our recruiting's, gone up, but are we, tough enough to beat Michigan? And I think that, everything that could have gone wrong for Ohio State last year went wrong. We had a slow start. We just looked disinterested. It was cold, whatever. But like this year, I think that after you've been called soft for if you're a football player, being called soft is the worst thing you could possibly be called. So, like these guys, some of these guys are not, some of these guys, these people that are out here calling some of these guys soft, they wouldn't want to see them in a dark alley. So you don't want to walk up on Cade Stover, Tommy Eichenberg, Paris Johnson, because they will whoop anybody's asses. Those guys are tough dudes. But it's like, they've had to live with that for a whole year. And I remember in 2003, the only loss that I experienced when I didn't go to the game, so it didn't really count to me because I was a redshirt. I was watching it in the dorm, so if I'm not at the game, it doesn't really feel like a loss because you're not even like really part of the team. But like, I remember we played soft up there in 2003, and that was Tim Anderson and Krenzel and all the guys that beat the Miami Hurricanes. They went up there, and Michigan beat their ass in Ann Arbor. And it was like, and I was like, man, I am not about to go through that shit. Because like, the olden days, it was like if you played Michigan, you played the week before Thanksgiving. I used to always tell my mom, I'm like, look, if for some weird reason we lose to these guys, I am not coming home for Thanksgiving, and I'm probably not going to be home for Christmas because I just don't feel like dealing with that shit. But like when I was like, so you always had that extra motivation where it's like you don't want to walk around, because it is a real thing. Like these guys were humiliated last year, and everybody reminds them of it everywhere they go, man. And it's like, and they have a chance to redeem it and flip it this year and be the heroes again and make everybody feel good about the program. So I think there's a lot of motivation. I think it's all in Ohio State. I think that the breaks are coming in, and I think that Michigan's already kind of backpedaling in their press conference where they're saying, oh, well, there's room for respect and there's room for kindness. And I was like, dude, I don't respect you guys. I hated you guys. When I played those guys, I hated those guys. It wasn't some movie, bullshit. Like I really hated those guys. And that's all TJ was. And we weren't out there, dicking around, shaking hands with them after the game, because I wasn't about being friends with those guys. So, Nevada, you got anything to close this thing out? I'm gonna actually get on with TJ here in a little bit. So we're gonna have the night shift, the after hours crew, me and TJ. So
yeah, I think you hit it right in the head though. I mean, last year Ohio State didn't just get beat last year; they got humiliated. And when you get humiliated and you get your manhood questioned, and then the other team questions your manhood, and then your other team's coach questions your coach's manhood, it's like, I mean, it's on Saturday.
Oh, man.
And I'm telling you, like I said, I am not a big proponent of that bulletin board stuff, but it's real, man. And like I said, I talk to the players, I talk to guys there. I know how personal it is. And so it's like, anybody who's thinking that this is not personal and that this is not going to be spirited on Saturday is just, they're not understanding how bad this was. And I think, there's a reason why Ohio State's been so tough at home. There's a reason why Michigan's been very, very mediocre on the road, and it all comes due on Saturday in Columbus. And I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a glorious time, and it's going to shut up the Michigan people. All those stupid Michigan people that bring out that Wolverine stuff every 12 years whenever they get a win. Now they can put it back in mothballs and scurry back to their corner, so we don't have to listen to them. Oh, we're so great. We've got the culture. No, you've got a coach with Asperger's syndrome or whatever the heck he's got, and he can run off to the Colts or whatever team he's going to run off to after his one mighty victory against Ohio State. And I'm done with them. I'm done putting them to bed. We're going to bury him this Saturday, and it's all going to be over.
Beck, you got any final thoughts after that? I mean, he just burned up the last 2% of his battery with that diatribe and that volume level.
I have nothing. I have
Nothing.
not. I'm waiting for TJ. I'm waiting for TJ now.
Oh God, TJ or
Nothing bad.
TJ, you're probably gonna have to go bail TJ out of jail after this one because it's
Bring
gonna
on
be
TJ.
TVMA on the thing. But
This
the
one's
what
the mic's been dropped on this one. We're done, man.
I
What
love
else
it.
you got to say? It's ended. Go to
Uh,
TJ.
all right. I appreciate you guys. As always, we're going to wrap this thing up. We have our crew is fantastic. What a crew with Bank and Nevada. Those guys are nuts. They're characters. If you enjoyed this, please leave us a like, subscribe to our channel. We are really growing like crazy. We appreciate you guys. We have an absolute blast on our site. It's like this every day on our site, man. We're always talking. We have a great community, eclectic, really good people. So love to have you guys as members of the Scoop family. Feel free to join. Fantastic Christmas gift. Black Friday's coming up. You guys got to get your shopping done. You got mom, dad, boyfriend, husband, whatever, wife. You know, you want to give them a great gift, get them here at buckeyescoop.com. You guys won't regret it. It's fantastic. We're looking for those first-time message board people. They've been part of a community like this because it is fun. We have such a great crowd, and we are going to be going crazy during the Michigan game. Tons of inside info coming from inside the Woody Hayes. You guys are going to love it. So, as always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Again, comment down below who needs to be the MVP. Give me a score. I want to see your score for the Ohio State-Michigan game. I need your prediction. And also, shout out where you're from. I love when you guys do that. We got people from Florida. We've got people from all over the world, Europe, Asia. It's fantastic when you guys do that. Appreciate you guys. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. This has been Buckeye Scoop Live. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Talk to you guys tomorrow, and we will see you on the Ask the Insiders message board on buckeyescoop.com. You guys have a great night. Go Bucks. Beat Michigan.